We are a body like Bruce. Today we are bringing you this old book, Bruce Lee, by the editors of Black Belt magazine. Published around 1986. It's pretty tatty because it's old. And introduction. Everyone who knew him agreed that Bruce Lee had a certain chemistry. He was catalyst. Those who have written about him, for instance, all have used very plain language because he had evoked in them that old desire for simplicity, economy and straightforwardness, the important tenets of his style. Bruce Lee, the man, the fighter, the superstar, by M. Uehara, starts off this book as part 1 because it is a general yet thorough biography of Bruce Lee, which tells the story from his formative years in Hong Kong to his rise as an actor and maturity as a martial artist. Part 2 is about his martial art. The general public first became aware of Bruce Lee's art through the television series The Green Hornet, which also launched his acting career in the US. Maxwell Pollard's 2 articles based on interviews with Lee during and immediately following the series centers on the reality behind the illusion. The first, through interviews, explores Bruce's martial art. In the second, the author is given a personal lesson in the principles of Jeet Kune Do, as Lee explains it during a workout in his Chinatown school. Lee's Spartan lifestyle and rigorous daily training are detailed in Mitch Stom's article, Bruce Lee's Training Methods. Stom goes into depth to show the extraordinary exercises and gym equipment Lee developed to condition his body. To conclude the second part, the article Liberate Yourself from Classical Karate, written by Bruce Lee, is included. Here, Lee summarizes his philosophy as it has influenced his martial art. Lee, the pragmatist, pushes toward explaining the essence of Jeet Kune Do and comes as close as he ever did to describing a whole way of life. Part 3 covers Lee's works in the movies Superstar Bruce Lee, an acclaimed phenomenon by Mike Plain, gives an overview of Bruce's movie career. After that, Date with Destiny by the same author tells of Bruce's collaboration with Raymond Chow and Lo Wei. Next, Linda Lee's account of the making of Way of the Dragon, a film which Lee directed himself, is followed by Steve Jacques' article on the making of Enter the Dragon, Bruce's biggest Hollywood film. Part 4 consists of reminiscences by friends, including students, fellow martial artists, movie executives and celebrities. All give their personal impressions of Bruce Lee and tell of their involvement with him. Here is the contents page. Chapter 1, Bruce Lee, the Man, Fighter, the Superstar, by M. Uehara. He died 1,000 times. Year after year, death haunted Bruce Lee until the fatal day of July 20, 1973, when he finally met death at the young age of 32. Since reaching fame from the television series The Green Hornet, in which he played Kato, Bruce's name was always associated with fighting and death. Rumours were constantly being circulated that he was always fighting 10 or more assailants, and that he had either been wounded or killed after he had slain 3 or more punks. One day, he states he got a letter, long distance call from Hong Kong's largest newspaper, explained Bruce Lee. They asked him if he was still alive. Guess who you're talking to? He replied, nope, haven't got into a fight. But it's headlined in all the newspapers to hear that you were killed by some ruffians, the dumbfounded reporter told him. Besides rumours of death, Bruce was also haunted by stories of someone beating him up. Bruce had made enemies on both continents, and they apparently used his name to enhance their ego and fame. Perhaps their resentment was a reaction to his seemingly conceited attitude when he arrived in the United States for the first time. Yeah, Bruce was real cocky when I first met him, said Leo Fong, then a Methodist minister, but he simmered down quite a bit as he matured. Bruce feared no man. He had so much confidence in his ability that he dared not to back off from any challenge. While he was a student at the University of Washington, Seattle, Bruce once recalled he gave a demonstration of Kung Fu. While explaining the art is the forerunner of karate, he was rudely interrupted by a black belt karate man from Japan who sat in front of the stage. No, karate not from China, come from Japan, he hollered. Bruce reiterated superciliously, karate is from Kung Fu. After the crowd left, the karate man challenged Bruce, you want to fight? Any time, Bruce retorted. Okay, I fight you next week. Why not now, asked Bruce. And here's the portrait of the Lee family. It only took me 2 seconds to dispose of him, Bruce recalled. He was too slow and too stiff. In 1967, Black Belt magazine interviewed Bruce. By that time, he had already converted his fighting style from Wing Chun to Chi Kung Do, literally the way of the intercepting fist. He saw the limitation in Wing Chun, Bruce explained. He'd gotten into a fight in San Francisco with a Kung Fu cat, and after a brief encounter, the son of a bitch started to run. I chased him and like a fool, kept punching him behind his head and back. Soon my fist began to swell from hitting his hard head. Right then I realised Wing Chun was not too practical and began to alter my way of fighting, or his way of fighting. Bruce's outspoken ways made even more enemies. In his interview with Black Belt, Bruce blasted the Chinese classical Kung Fu practitioners and other martial artists for practicing kata forms. What a waste of time, he chastised. How can you fight by doing kata? There's no way a person is going to fight you in the street with a set pattern. The challenge began to roll in. One Kung Fu instructor scurrilously attacked Bruce, saying that the young man didn't know enough to make any criticisms. A few days later, Bruce decided to meet the instructor and challenge him to a sparring match. When the instructor retorted that he didn't spar, but would only use his art in a life and death situation, Bruce unhesitantly responded, okay, let's go somewhere right now and have it out. Bruce was not the type to be bluffed. He would spar or fight anyone, even an opponent twice his size. Although Bruce was reared in Hong Kong, he was born in San Francisco, and etc. etc. Usual biography stuff. According to Bruce's young brother Robert, Bruce had studied several different styles of Kung Fu but chose Wing Chun. Bruce felt it was the most effective style of Kung Fu then, at that time. Bruce once mentioned that the Chinese Queen school was not like the Japanese dojo school. I have to give the Japanese credit for installing regimentation in their schools, he said. The Japanese sensei instructor is revered and his command is law, but not the Kung Fu instructor Sifu or Shifu. We used to address our instructors with, hey old man, what do you have in mind for us? If we didn't like what he wanted us to do, we used to say, God damn it, we have to do that crap again. Bruce explained that many juvenile hoodlums and punks took up Kung Fu but didn't remain with it long. They didn't take Kung Fu for health reasons but just to learn to fight, an attitude which was not difficult to understand since the senior students and even some of the instructors smoked opium. From time to time a real match would take place on the roof of a tall building. Usually it was between students from two different styles of Kung Fu, just like those movies. Like the old tradition, one school would challenge another, Bruce remembered, in a designated place and time would be set. On the day of reckoning, both schools would have the instructors and students to cheer their fighters. Impromptu rules would be established, but those rules would be so minimal that the fight would be just about all out. Nobody really got hurt because the arts weren't that effective. Those guys would have torn shirts and bloody noses, but Bruce never saw anybody really get hurt badly enough to be sent to the hospital. These contests were not really grudge fights, Bruce explained, but contests to find out which was the superior style of Kung Fu. After the battle, the fighters would shake hands and go to a restaurant for some tea. Being a perfectionist, Bruce did not like defeat. While studying Wing Chun, he and other new students were often tormented by some of the older students during Chi Sao, sticky hands, practice. Those bastards enjoyed overpowering us, and as we weakened, they used to slap us on our chest and face. Yeah, they used to scratch him as well. He got so mad one day that he decided to dish out the same medicine to them. He made a concentrated effort to develop his flowing energy. While attending class, high school, he began to press his arm at the edge of the desk and flowed his energy. Martial artists usually refer to this inner energy as Chi, or the Japanese Ki. One of the friendliest senior students spent some time after workouts exercising with Bruce. In a few months, he got his revenge, and did he dish it out to them. He really picked on them after that. Yeah, he paid them back. He scratched them and bruised them, and so forth. And it's a bit about his father, Hui Chun. Like most Chinese fathers, Bruce's dad paid little attention to the children, spending most of his spare time in his private room reading. Nobody knows why Mr. Lee disapproved of his children's theatrical inclinations when he himself was in the profession. Nevertheless, both Bruce and his younger brother Robert became sensations in Hong Kong. Bruce as an actor and Robert as a singer. We have the record he did apparently. We found the public domain, public access at the end of this video. Bruce was a believer in astrology. He returned to Hong Kong in 1963 after an absence of 4 years, and during a short stay he managed to see a fortune teller who predicted that Bruce would not see his father again. On February 9, 1965, Bruce's dad passed away before Bruce had a chance to return to Hong Kong again. Even though Bruce's dad wasn't close to him, Bruce admired him and heeded some of his advice. My dad used to tell me to save my dough because he knew I wanted to be an actor. He would say, when you become an actor you can earn big money quickly, but when things are down you may not see any money for months. So save everything you can to stretch your money when you need it. Bruce never mentioned it to his friends or to the media, but he had inherited a tint of German blood from his mother, who is 3/4 Chinese and 1/4 German. Bruce came from a family of 5 children. His brother Peter, a year older than Bruce, graduated from the University of Wisconsin in physics and is now a scientific officer at the Royal Observatory in Hong Kong. An air depth fencer, Peter captured the Hong Kong Championship in 1958 and participated in the Olympic trials in England. Bruce didn't feel that it was unusual that his dad was closer to Peter than to himself. His older brother and father had similar characteristics, scholarly and reserved. Bruce, on the other hand, was always garrulous and to some extent a maverick. There's more information there. When he went to Seattle, he went to Hong Kong, he left Hong Kong, went to the United States. He was being a busboy. His first job was bussing and washing dishes in a restaurant for Ruby Chow. And then he goes to University of Washington and he meets Taki Kimura, who eventually became Bruce's instructor for the Seattle area. Taki Kimura was one of those Japanese that were in those internment camps, and he's pretty down on himself, and Bruce told him to pick it up, right? He helped him to pick himself up. He had low self-esteem and all this sort of stuff, and he was much appreciative of Bruce for that. Not of our time. Bruce was ahead of our time, at least 100 years, says Dan Innocento, his protege, a rare accolade coming from one who had studied the martial arts for so many years, a black belt in 8 years in Kempo Karate and several years in Kung Fu and Eskrima, the Filipino martial art. Chun Ri, a top Taekwondo instructor in the US, agrees. I don't know how Bruce did it. He moved in so fast before he could even get set. After converting his style of Kung Fu to Jeet Kune Do, Bruce regretted ever having coined the term. I hate to label any fighting into a style, he explained. Fighting should not be stylized. When you fight, you should prepare to handle yourself against any kind of an opponent, whether he is a boxer, judoist, or wrestler. Bruce combined several different sports in creating Jeet Kune Do. For instance, he incorporated the southpaw stance from fencing. The reason I took this unorthodox stance, Bruce stated, is because most of us are right-handed, and since the right hand and foot are faster and stronger than the left, why not utilise them by placing our right foot and right hand forward? Bruce felt that this stance would allow the practitioner to utilise 80% of his right hand and foot. Bruce was fast with his feet and hands, especially his hands. Back in the early 60s, he used to give demonstrations throughout the country. One of his favourite techniques was to ask a volunteer from the audience, usually a top karate player, to come up and block his punches. Most karate players expect to block a punch thrown to their face, especially if they are forewarned. But not one person was able to block Bruce's punches. Why? Just as the fencer does not signal his frontal attack, Bruce never telegraphed his punches. He was endowed with a keen awareness and was able to apply it in practice. Bruce's boxing idol was Muhammad Ali, who was the greatest heavyweight boxer he had ever seen. Bruce used to watch Ali's films over and over again until he knew most of his movements. To adapt some of his techniques, Bruce would watch Ali's films through the reflection of a mirror. Since Bruce's stance was southpaw and Ali's was orthodox, he could view Ali's fighting in southpaw through the mirror. After coming to the United States, Bruce became more conscious of his body and health. He began to eat nutritious food and did plenty of exercise. It was not unusual for him to go up 1,500 milligrams of vitamin C and run 3 miles a day on hilly roads. But Bruce did not go in for building big muscles. Instead, he exercised to develop plenty of small muscles and building power, which he could apply to his fighting. For instance, he had powerful abdominal muscles to absorb blows to that area. Bruce developed forearm muscles by lifting a 70-pound barbell straight out, holding it for a few seconds, horizontally aligned with his chest. Not many weightlifters can hold it that long, he used to say with pride. Sometimes he would sit on his couch watching television with a pair of 25-pound dumbbells in his hand, pumping them up and down. In his collection of equipment, Bruce used 2 types of speed bags, the old, suspended one and a modern type. He had several heavy bags, one weighed as much as 200 pounds. I like to swing the heavy bag, he explained, and if I can stop it with a kick, I know I can knock a 400-pound man on his ass. Bruce also had several other pieces of equipment, like a wooden dummy with 4 hands and 2 legs, makiwara, hydraulic kicking apparatus, and several punching and kicking canvas bags. He had a student who was also a personal, he did these equipment for him. He created and, well, Bruce would draw it up and this guy would create it and then maybe repair it, upgrade it, all that sort of stuff. All to his specific needs, right? And his stills of Bruce Lee using his 1-inch punch. Yeah, this might be Joe Lewis. Give you some more information about Bruce and students, people he met. Here is Brandon Lee as a little boy. His father's teaching him martial arts. Way of the Dragon with Chuck Norris. James Coburn, Chuck Norris and Bob Wall. Looks like he's Winslow Wong on the James Marlowe movie, Into the Dragon. Not too sure who this guy was. James Marlowe, probably. Gunner. Well, this is the Green Hornet guy. And Van Williams. James Lee, his student. It's Longstreet with James Franciscus. Into the Dragon. And this is Bruce Lee's demise, his death in 73 and his funeral. This looks like his wife and his mother, Grace, Linda Lee and Grace Lee. Steve McQueen, James Coburn, probably his brother, not really sure. Was the Green Hornet's version of Kung Fu genuine? Virtually unknown at that time, Kung Fu received public exposure when Bruce used it to combat villains in the Green Hornet. At first only an exotic element, it soon became one of the show's primary attractions. Yeah, in Hong Kong it was known as the Kato Show. That's about Van Williams. Is Bruce Lee exercising, medicine ball, etc. And the Wing Chun dummy, or the wooden dummy. More exercise technique. Hook Jung, a wooden dummy. Bruce Lee's training methods. Here's an important note. He stated, in Jeet Kune Do, Bruce emphasized physical conditioning as a must for all martial artists. If you are not physically fit, he said, you have no business doing any hard sparring. The best exercise for getting physically fit, according to Bruce, was running. Running is so important that you should keep it up during your lifetime. What time of the day you run is not important, as long as you run. In the beginning you should jog easily, then gradually increase the distance and tempo, and finally include sprinting to develop your wind. Bruce believed that each individual should include a supplemental training schedule. That is, he should not just rely on training in the gym or school, but should have his own training schedule, utilising different equipment between the gym training session. Just because you get very good at the supplemental training, Bruce warned, it should not go to your head that you're an expert. Remember, actual sparring is the ultimate, and this training is only a means towards this. Let's do more exercises here. More stills from his TV appearances, TV shows, Longstreet, Into the Dragon, Big Boss. Talks about the Big Boss. His first movie, major movie. Way of the Dragon. Into the Dragon. This guy here, supposedly a master of 33 different martial arts. The guy who played Han on Into the Dragon. In Way of the Dragon, executed against Chuck Norris in Way of the Dragon. One of Lee's favourite techniques in the cinema fights was the leg sweep, which showed off his great quickness. Fist of Fury, the end scene. Okay, maybe this is talking about his death, his sudden death in July 20, 1973. It's talking about his choreography, his movies, etc. Fist of Fury, Big Boss, Way of the Dragon. Into the Dragon. Here he is with Chuck Norris and Way of the Dragon again. With Nora Meow. Into the Dragon. Boloum. John Saxon, Fred Weintraub and Bob Klaus, the directors. Shia Kien is the guy who was mastering 33 different martial arts apparently. Old magazine we saw it claimed that. And he didn't speak English. And John Saxon and Bruce Lee. Angela Mao Ying, black belt in Hapkido or something like that. Betty Chung, who plays a secret agent contact he's got to get hold of on Hans Island. It's Bob Wall. This here actually wasn't Bruce Lee, it was this other guy from Kung Fu Hustle, the landlord with the mustache. Yeah. And this is where Bob Wall made a mess up and cut his hand, cut Bruce's hand or something like that, and he lost face in front of these Chinese and all that sort of stuff. Bruce Lee is seen through the eyes of movie personalities. Steve McQueen talks about him. He thought a great deal of Bruce. He was a wonderful guy. James Coburn. John Saxon. Most of these guys are dead. They're passed. Jim Kelly, he's gone. It's Bruce Lee Way the Jaguar, who fights the Taekwondo black belt. He's supposed to be Japanese or something. Karate expert. But he's actually, I think he's actually Korean. Bruce Lee is seen through the eyes of movie executives like Sterling Silverman. It was incredible that Bruce Lee always knew he would someday be the most important star in the world. Sterling Silverman states here he had serious doubts he would ever, or Bruce Lee had serious doubts he would ever achieve what he ultimately achieved. Okay, this is Sterling Silverman thinking he had, or stating he had serious doubts that he ever reached that. He had tremendous magnetism on the screen. When Silverman saw his first two Chinese-made films in Hong Kong, he was absolutely delighted to see that the same force and energy which he projected there on the TV series came out even more there. But to predict that he would have the success that he did around the world, it was like a dream that couldn't come true. It was like saying that the Oriental minority is no longer a minority, but it's been accepted. Bruce was more than just a single success story. He represented a whole race finally being accepted in films. Fred Weintraub. He goes back about 3 or 4 years with Bruce. He wasn't interested in exercise or kung fu or anything like that. He had written a script some time ago called Kung Fu, which eventually became a television show with David Carradine. He always loved Chinese pictures. Technically he hates them because they take 3 hours before the final shootout, but in the end there's one guy against 200. It's always great. And so forth. Bruce Lee is seen through the eyes of TV personalities like Van Williams from the Green Hornet, James Franciscus from Longstreet, Bruce Lee as seen through the eyes of students of Jeet Kune Do, Dan and Los Santos. Dan Lee, who apparently was a Methodist minister before he met Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee as seen through the eyes of fellow martial artist Chuck Norris, who was 7 times world champion, karate champion. Wally J. Bob Wall, karate champion, black belt, karate champion. A lot of times, to get that effect, Bob Wall would actually take the punishment, like kicking the nuts, and all that sort of stuff. Mike Stone, I think this might be the guy that Priscilla Presley, after she had a problem with Elvis, she confided in him, and then she was romantically attached to him. I'm pretty sure this is the guy. Mike Stone. Jun Ri, Grandmaster of Taekwondo.